Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Over the next half an hour, we'll be looking beyond the business headlines by giving you in-depth perspective on the stories that are affecting all of us. Coming up on today's show, this week up to 30 million UK workers will see their national insurance contributions rise as the government introduces a controversial manifesto-breaking tax hike at a time when households have been hit with soaring energy bills and high costs of food and fuel. Our business correspondent Simon Pusey will be joining me in the studio with reactions. And according to a recent report compiled by Human Rights Watch, Nigeria risks falling further behind on women's equality following a recent decision by lawmakers to reject plans which would help to foster women's equality and political participation in the country. Erica Fremantle, the founder of Embracing All Tones of Women, will be joining me in the studio to talk about the importance of her British and American female empowerment trade mission to Nigeria. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, let's have a look at the business story dominating UK headlines this week. National insurance contributions have risen for millions of workers in the country as the government controversially introduced its manifesto-breaking tax hike. The Treasury is expecting to raise £39 billion over the next 3 years to help reduce the COVID-induced NHS backlog and later reform adult social care for the long term. The rise will tax the average worker an extra £250 a year. Meanwhile, the British Chancellor is facing questions over his wife's financial affairs after it emerged that she holds a non-domicile tax status, which enables her to earn money from abroad free of UK tax. Akshata Murthy is the daughter of an Indian billionaire and lives in Downing Street with Rishi Sunak. According to her spokesperson, the non-dom status was owing to her Indian citizenship because the country doesn't allow citizens to hold dual nationality. Labour, though, have demanded to know whether the arrangements meant that the Chancellor's wealthy family had saved on their tax bill while he increased taxes on less privileged British families. Well, earlier I spoke with our business correspondent Simon Pusey for some analysis. Simon, so despite significant pressure from charities as well as probing into his own personal finances, the Chancellor's gone ahead with this national insurance hike. What's the reaction been this week?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about his own personal finances in a bit, if we can. This is a 1.25% rise in national insurance, and this goes against the Conservative manifesto that said they weren't going to do this, but obviously they would point to things like COVID-19 and they'd point to Ukraine and things like that that has maybe slowed down the global economy and meant that they do have to raise taxes. What it is basically automatically taken out of most UK workers' pay packets each month alongside income tax, but it doesn't apply to everyone. It depends on what salary people are on. And it's supposed to raise £12 billion a year, and that's supposed to go towards the NHS and funding social care, which are two big things that the government have been talking about because it's obviously something that they see as a sort of vote winner in terms of the NHS's got a great brand name. The Health Secretary says it's right and fair to do this. Boris Johnson agrees. Sajid Javid saying the levy needed to pay for health and social care as a result of the COVID pandemic. But it does, of course, come at a time of soaring prices, costs for companies and also households, energy costs especially. And businesses have come out and said, you know, this is another cost pressure on top of firms at a time when they can ill afford to bear it. Another one said energy bills are soaring while the price of raw materials are reaching levels that never have seen before. This comes alongside increased shipping costs. So it's just another bill for businesses and for people.
Tax on jobs.
On top of a lot of other things. And yeah, this is a tax on jobs, so it's people who are employed, which you would say is fairer than, you know, taxing people who are unemployed. But it is another tax exactly on people who are maybe not earning that much money, but they do have a job. Keir Starmer of the Labour Party says it's the wrong tax at the wrong time and people are really, really struggling to pay their bills. The Lib Dems branding what they call a manifesto-breaking national insurance rise as the Sunak swindle. And if we turn quickly to Rishi Sunak, he's having a tough time of things at the moment because obviously he's married to a billionaire whose parents, I know, tough for some, whose parents made a lot of their money, but she's a billionaire, and it turns out that she's using a sort of loophole in the tax laws to avoid some tax. Non-dom status. Now that's not illegal, but it's not a good look for Rishi Sunak, who's pushing through these tax rises for people who are going to pay these taxes because most people don't have lawyers who can hide money away or accountants who can hide money away in various various places and make sure they don't pay tax. So I think the pressure is going to be on him in the coming weeks, because that's not a good look for someone who's raising taxes on ordinary working people, and yet their billionaire wife has been avoiding tax.
Yes, and that's because she's an Indian resident, right? We should be clear.
It is, yeah,
yes.
And it's
a British resident, but with Indian citizenship.
Exactly. So it's essentially a loophole, but it is legal, and it's what a lot of rich people will do. It's just unfortunate for him that he's the Chancellor, and looks and appearance is everything, and this is not a good look.
Not a good look at all. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks.
Moving on to our next topic now. Billion-dollar tech firms operating within the European Union will now have to comply with a new piece of legislation called the Digital Markets Act, which, put simply, is the latest set of do's and don'ts for the titans that dominate our access to the internet. Like the recent General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, these rules try to limit the market power of the big online platforms that the EU dubs as gatekeepers. But is the DMA Act too little, too late? Let's ask Luca Bertuzzi, the digital and media editor at Euractiv. Luca joins me from Brussels. Luca Bertuzzi, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Over the years, there have been several probes into big tech firms trying to rein them in, and now we've got another one. But this anti-legislation from the EU does appear to be quite opaque. For some of us simpletons, can you describe what it is and what it's exactly going to do?
Sure, thank you. Well, you have a point that the decision-making in Brussels is a bit opaque, but I think that in general terms, this seems like a quite comprehensive and ambitious legislation. So in a nutshell, this will only target a handful of companies, 15 to 20 in total. And these are companies that have a significant market power in a set of key digital markets, such as web browsers, operating system, advertising, search engines, and social media, for example. And the criteria for selecting these platforms will be 7.5 billion in annual turnover and 75 billion in market capitalization. And I'm speaking in euros, of course.
Yes.
So the idea...
No, please continue, Luca.
Yeah, the idea of this legislation is that enforcers worldwide in competition terms have failed to address digital markets because they move too fast. And they didn't manage to prove these things in court, anti-competitive practices in court. So the approach of the Commission here is very different and is to have a set of ex-ante rules, which are meant to be self-enforceable, therefore reversing the burden of proof on the platforms that if they go to court, they will have to show that they have been fair in their practices instead of putting this on the regulator to demonstrate that the practice was unfair.
Thank you. Thank you for that comprehensive breakdown. You said, Luca, that it only affects a handful with large annual turnovers. But let's be honest, it's only a handful that are controlling the tech system as we speak. Some observers are saying that this new DMA Act is going to create a level playing field and allow other European competitors to compete with the Silicon Valley tech titans. But is that even possible at the moment?
Well, look, being realistic, this is not a silver bullet, of course, but I think that there is a consensus in Brussels that something needed to be done because, as you said, few companies are controlling the internet economies nowadays. Now, the overall principle is that business users on the internet can now bypass the gatekeeper better and reach their customers. The very concept of gatekeepers come from this idea that if a platform is so large, it becomes a gateway between business users and consumers. So the idea is to open up these platforms, is not to break them up. And also the principle here is that no one expects a European search engine to rival Google. But what policymakers in Brussels want to do is to avoid that Google, Facebook, and the likes leverage their market position in social media, search engine, etc., to grab more and more pieces of the internet economy that maybe we don't even know what they will look like in few years' time. So it's really to avoid that they leverage the dominant market position from one market to the other.
Yes, time will only tell. And as you said, it's not a silver bullet, but it's a start of something, isn't it? Demand for digital services, as we know, is growing, particularly in mainland Europe. Are there some fears that perhaps being too draconian or probing too much is going to shy away some investors and think, you know what, forget Europe, we'll go and invest straight in America?
Look, this is something that we hear every time a big piece of legislation comes up, and every time it's proven wrong. This was the case for the GDPR, the EU privacy law, for example. What we are seeing instead is, for example, VC capital is moving from the United States to Europe because the United States market is saturated. So no, I don't think that this will lead to investments running away from Europe. Europe is one of the largest and most profitable markets in the world. So I really doubt that the Apple or the Amazon will shut down their operations here. The principle of competition is that it creates incentives for innovation and investments. Now, of course, that will depend if it's done right.
Yes, we'll just have to wait and see. As you said, Luca Bertuzzi, digital and media editor at Euractiv. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Thanks, Luca. Let's change gears now and discuss the recruitment process in Africa, which has witnessed some significant changes due to the coronavirus lockdowns. Rapid technological advances are bringing major changes to workplaces everywhere. And to overcome Africa's current economic development challenge, speeding up the process of economic transformation through job creation is crucial. Recruitment company Andela has recently launched a new platform designed to create a more direct, personalised and successful hiring experience for both talent and recruiters. And Angela Matoni, the firm's Learning Community Director, joins me now from Nairobi for more on this. Agnes Matoni, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. We know that the pandemic completely upended the global labour market. How did it change the perspective and the vision for Andela?
Thank you, Juliana. Yeah. So the last few years has thrown into sharp focus the need to just think differently about how we work, where we work, and even just our personal lives, right? And so the first and most obvious change is this transition into remote working, which has really now become the preferred mode of how people want to work. And also just even more of our clients are embracing this. In a more recent global study, what we did find is that 81% of hiring managers are now open to the idea of bringing in staff from different time zones and also having their staff working from home. And at Andela, we're starting putting this wheels in motion a couple of years ago when we set up our offices in Egypt and Ghana. These were fully remote. And so by the time we were hit with the global lockdowns, we were able to fully embed this remote work model. And it's really taking off. And what's interesting to see is just the greater acceptance of this way of working, and also just to also see how it's enabling developers from the continent to connect with global opportunities. And also developers are excited about the idea that they can be able to integrate some work-life harmony and build some more flexibility in their lives, together with also get some time back.
Agnes Matoni, Director of Talent Partnerships at Andela. Thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Agnes.
You're welcome.
In a moment, I'll be joined by Erica Fremantle, the founder of Embracing All Tones of Women. But before then, here's some business news for you. A recall of Kinder Surprise eggs has been extended to include more products over salmonella fears. Britain's Food Standards Agency has already advised consumers not to eat 20 grams or 3-pack eggs with best before dates between July the 11th and October the 7th, 2022. Kinder Easter egg hunt kits, Kinder mini eggs, Kinder Shocker bins and the 100-gram Kinder Surprise have now been recalled too. All sweets affected had been made in the same Belgian factory. The precautionary move comes after more than 100 people in the UK, mostly young children, became infected with salmonella in an outbreak linked to the Kinder Surprise treats. Twitter has confirmed it's working on an edit button and it will be tested with users in the coming months. The announcement came after billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk sent out a poll on the platform on Monday, asking users if they wanted the feature. More than 4.4 million people responded, with 73.6% voting for the edit button. Twitter says it was already working on the feature before Musk was appointed to its board. A former P&O Ferries employee has become the first seafarer to take legal action against the firm, after 800 staff were sacked last month without notice. John Lansdowne, who worked as a chef on one of the vessels, is suing the company and its chief exec for unfair dismissal, racial discrimination and harassment. He is seeking financial compensation as well as damages of up to £76 million. P&O Ferries has previously said that all 800 staff made redundant would be offered £36.5 million in total, with around 40 staff receiving more than £100,000 each. Now to our next topic. According to a recent report compiled by Human Rights Watch, Nigeria risks falling behind further on women's equality following a recent decision by lawmakers to reject plans which would have helped to foster women's equality and political participation in the country. In the business world, though, Nigerian female entrepreneurs are a force to be reckoned with, which is why my next guest decided to create a trade mission for British and American women to allow them to create greater business ties with like-minded individuals in Nigeria. Erica Freemantle is the founder of Embracing All Tones of Women, and she joined me earlier to discuss the details of the summit. Erica Freemantle, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here in the studio with me. We've actually discussed having this conversation for weeks and weeks now, but of course the invasion of Ukraine has upended all of our schedule. But we do need to talk about some of the amazing work that you've been doing, not just in Britain, but now in Nigeria. And it's really timely because recently Human Rights Watch suggests that Nigeria sadly risks falling behind on women's equality. Tell me how you have been able to take British women, American women to Nigeria for a trade mission. How did it start and where are we with this project?
Well, thank you for having me. Nigeria, my parents are from Jamaica, I must add that. However, Nigeria is my home. And people ask me that. They say to me, how, why, when did all this happen? I've been to many African countries and many Caribbean countries, and I never, ever felt like I fitted in. Comfortable, I understood, but it never had that ginger. And then 15 years ago, I was asked to go to Nigeria by the British government. My background is the makeup industry, or was the makeup industry. I'm no longer in that. But it's all around women. We know as women what makeup does to us and how it makes us feel. So I was invited to Nigeria, Lagos in particular, and I fell in love. I just fell in love with the enthusiasm, the women, the men, the dynamics, the madness, the culture. It made sense. So for me, since going to Nigeria, Lagos in particular, I always have to be very specific, even though I fell in love with Abuja and all the other places. I just said, you have to go where your heart is. And the people in Nigeria in general fell in love with me and showed me the way. They held my hand, they showed me the way. And being a woman, being vocal, coming from the UK, having Jamaican parentage, and having lots of Nigerian friends, I just ran with it.
You did, and it was the Embracing All Tones of Women event took place over 3 days, I believe. We are going to be showing our viewers some pictures, some really big names, including your bestie, Mo Abudu, Ebony Life, and so many others. Again, you also partnered with the British High Commission in Nigeria.
Correct.
But it's bringing women who hadn't seen Nigeria before and showing them that they can make money. Where did that idea generate?
As I said, it was my own personal experience, having done it myself, having gone to Nigeria, not knowing anyone, not even having any exposure. I just felt that I couldn't have had this experience and not share it with others. So we specifically chose women that wanted to enter into Nigeria, or as we say, land in Nigeria, in Lagos, but they weren't quite sure. They didn't know who, where, what, when, which I could relate to many years ago. And these women came. They're very successful women in their own right in what they do. They came and they now are like me. It was mind-blowing. It was so mind-blowing that I brought my mother and I brought my brother with me, and they now understand the love story that I have with Nigeria. But yes, we have some phenomenal partners, the British High Commission, the DIT, Department of International Trade, Ebony Life Place, and my dear friend Mo Abudu. We have so many people that jumped on board, so much so that the Helen Grant, the envoy to Boris Johnson here in the UK, she has signed and sealed and said that she wants to be part of the next one that we're doing this year in 2022, November. So yeah, thank you. It was an idea that's manifest, that's evolved, that's flying.
What are some of the industries, particularly this year? I believe, is it taking place in November, the
Correct.
Trade Mission?
Correct.
What are some of the industries that you think are people in Britain and America are interested in investing in? And are you surprised to hear that Nigerian women are still struggling for gender equality and more inclusion, given that you had such a successful trip and some of the people who you know who are doing so well in Nigeria
Yes.
are women?
Yes. Well, last year, if we go by last year's trade mission, we had more of the creative industry. So we had a lot of people from the beauty, film, production. This year, we decided to just open it because everybody wants to come. So we've got we've got lawyers, we've got bankers, we've got financiers, we've got nurses, we've got actresses, we've got beauty industry, we've got fintech industry. It's just opened up because women said they just want to be there. And us as women, we do like to look glamorous. We do.
We do.
We like to make money and look glamorous at the same time. So why not be in that environment where that you have pioneers, people that are already doing it successfully? And to answer your question, the women that we surround ourselves with, they're doing well, and they're women that want to bring other women up. So yes, there are barriers, but they don't let it stop them. And that is our motto. If we can do it, you can do it. Yes, there will always be barriers. And if you're stuck in that way of thinking, then stay there. We are about smashing those glass ceilings, about bringing your skill set and meeting other women and men, because admittedly we did have 5 men with us, that will show you the way, that will hold your hand, that will nurture you, and that will bring you into those spaces. The rest is down to you, because we can't make a promise. But you need to be in the right room to make things happen at the right time.
Goodness me, well, you're certainly setting up the right room. I think we've name-dropped everybody, haven't we? But I know there are some other exclusive names. Give us some exclusive names that we can expect to see this year. And how can viewers get involved if they wanted to?
Yeah, so this year we're in talks with the Ford Foundation, which we're very excited about. We're also talking to the IOD in Nigeria. And we've got a few actors and actresses that said that they'd like to come along. We're awarding some really big names. So we also have an award ceremony as part of the trade mission. We do things with glamour. Yes. And this recognises, last year was Nigerian women, but we've opened it up for Ghanaian women as well. So there are some big names that are going to be awarded for the work that they're doing and the work that they've done. I'm really excited. It's given me something to look forward to. And if anyone wants to contact us, they can just contact me myself, Erica Fremantle on Instagram, or EATOW Global on Instagram. EATOW,
which is embracing all tones of women.
Global, EATOW Global, DM messages only. And then we will do our research and then decide if they are the right people for us.
Oh, wonderful. We love a little bit of glitz and glam. Hopefully
we
Channels
do.
Business Global will get an exclusive invite to the
Of
3-day
course,
affair.
of
We do
course.
hope to see you there, Erica. Thank you so much for all the wonderful work you're doing to
Thank
empower
you.
women, not just here in Britain and America, but now in Africa, Nigeria,
Yes.
Ghana. It's fantastic and puts a smile on our face. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Erica Fremantle, the founder of Embracing All Tones
Of
of Women,
Women.
ETAL Global. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today, but do, as always, get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.